Good evening and welcome to Cavan TV. Well, this evening I am in Middle Chapel, Cootehill, or St Mary's Chapel. This Sunday there's a very special celebration mass, 200 years of this church in the community. A wonderful history, and to tell me all about it this evening is Patrick Cassidy. Good evening, Patrick.
Good evening, Áine.
And Patrick is chairperson of the Middle Chapel Bicentenary Committee, local historian and teacher in Cavan Institute. My goodness, Patrick, the chapel outside is looking splendid.
Thank you very much, Áine, and you're very welcome to Middle Chapel, Cootehill.
Inside and outside is looking splendid. A lot of work has been done.
A lot of work has been done. We have a very good committee. We have a Bicentenary committee which was formed just over 2 years ago now, so we've been planning for quite a while. We've been very active. We've met, every few months in the initial year, and then recently we were meeting mostly every week. In the last week we've been meeting every couple of nights, to be honest. There's a lot to get through. But we're very excited about one of the most important events will be this Sunday, which is the Thanksgiving Mass to celebrate the Bicentenary of St Mary's Church.
Now, St Mary's Chapel has got a great history, like 200 years. That's pre-famine time.
That's right. Well, it's called St Mary's Church officially, but the local people call it Middle Chapel. So people get confused. Why is it a chapel? Is it a church or a chapel? Well, basically, when this chapel or church was built originally, we're sitting now in the main aisle of the church, or the nave of the church. The two side aisles was the original chapel. So it was built in the form of a rectangular building, which was called a barn church at the time. And it was started back in 1821, the initial construction, and then by 1824 it was ready for service. So it was dedicated then.
Very different times. You were telling me earlier about that there was nothing inside. It was actually just a barn.
At those times, the Catholic Church was still, it didn't have the same rights as the established Church or Church of Ireland, along with some of the other Protestant churches as well. So when they were given permission to build chapels, they had to be very plain and bare structures. They couldn't have towers or bell towers or anything like that. The established church was the official church in the town. So after the Reformation and the plantation of Ulster, all the churches that existed in Ireland at the time were taken over by the Reformed Church. So in this parish, the parish of Drumgoon, there were two churches at the time. One was in Cootehill and one was at St Patrick's at Drumgoon Hill. Both of those chapels were taken over by the new settlers. So when the penal laws came in, Catholics were forbidden to practice in public. So they use mass rocks, and we have a number of those in the area. There's one in the parish at Polty Mass Rock, it's called, in the townland of Latully, which was quite far away from Cootehill. But basically, by the early part of the 19th century, more rights were being given to people who lived in the area. So it became known
as the Middle Church Chapel then because...
It became known as Middle Chapel because there were 3 chapels built in the parish around the same time. This was the first one, Middle Chapel, and then in Cootehill, St Michael's Chapel was built down Chapel Lane, and which behind St Michael's Hall now, and it's gone, obviously, the original chapel. And then out at Mudgibond they built St Patrick's Chapel as well.
So you're saying now that that part of the church going that way is the original wall and original...
The original structure, yes. The only difference, I suppose, Áine, is that you would have had 2 galleries, one at either end. So one end was for women and one end was for men, and there were 2 doors in as well. And in the centre then you wouldn't have had a very ornate altar like we have today. There was a simple altar. There was no furniture inside. It was a mud floor, and people came in and stood during Mass. And Mass was in Latin. So the people wouldn't have really understood a lot of what was going on. It was quite a mysterious sermon, and people would have stood outside as well.
And of course, if people remember the Latin Mass, is that where the priest celebrates with his back
to the congregation? Apparently he only turned around when he was giving the sermon. So I think our next guest will tell us a little bit more about that when he's talking.
So the graveyard as well is of historic interest.
Yes, indeed. Coming in, you would have seen that chapel is surrounded by a graveyard. So in the initial phase of the chapel, when this part was built, the old graveyard was up on the hill. But by the time, after the Great Famine period, by the end of the 19th century, it had filled up. So they had to actually extend it to this side, and this is when they built the new nave at the start of the 20th century. And a portion of land was bought outside from a neighbouring family called Carrahers, and they extended the graveyard there.
I observed on the way in as well that you have got a plan of the graves in the graveyard.
That's right.
In the graveyard now, which is a great thing for anybody who's coming on holidays, maybe you want to check up an ancestry and things like that. A few graveyards are doing that, you have that done. That is some sort of history, isn't it?
It is. It was one of the things we decided to do, one of the objectives we had when we formed the committee, the Bicentenary Committee, to do a graveyard survey and have it on display, because lots of people come here every year. We have blessing of the graves, and lots of the older graves, there's no markers at all. People don't know.
You're depending on a memory from long ago.
We're depending on memories, and unfortunately the last grave digger who lived in the area died, and nothing was written down, so a lot of the memories were lost with the older generation. But we spend quite a bit of time gathering information, and thankfully a lot of it's on the plan outside.
The middle chapel means a lot to the local people.
It really does, Áine. Like, it's the centre of the community, and people really cherish the chapel. When you walk in, you just feel a warmth about the place. It's not a huge church. It's very intimate.
It's inviting, yeah.
It's got beautiful stained glass windows, as you can see behind. So when the sun shines through those, it's like being in paradise. It really is, on a Sunday morning. And yeah, it's just a very prayerful little building.
So this Sunday you have a very special Thanksgiving Mass, and you also are launching your a short history.
That's right.
Of St Mary's Church by yourself, and tell us about Sunday.
So basically on Sunday we have a special Mass of Thanksgiving at 12:30 in the afternoon. It's being live streamed, so lots of people who maybe don't have a chance to come on the day can tune in and watch the Mass. Our Bishop will be there on the day, Bishop Martin, and we have invited some of the past priests of the parish as well to join with us. We have a beautiful choir coming, so it's an amalgamation of the town choir, St Michael's, and St Patrick's choir in Mudjabon, and we have local people as well joining in, so it's a very special occasion.
And I'm sure
Father Cooney
bringing back some previous priests.
Yes, so it'll be a lovely chance then after Mass to meet and talk to people. Afterwards we're having refreshments up in Drumgoon in Boyle Park in the community centre. So we're going to launch the book there, the little history, that's a 200-year history of the parish. So it's a short history, as I say. A lot of people don't really like history, but I kept it short so that it's sort of inviting. And
there's one very interesting picture in there of the church.
That's right. We were able to commission actually a picture of an artist's impression of what it would have looked like as a barn church. So a local lady, Olivia Boyle, kindly agreed to paint it for me, and we're delighted to have it. Very plain, but they were the structures, I suppose, at the time, Áine. If you look at a lot of Presbyterian churches too and Methodist chapels, they were similar, because they weren't allowed, as I say, to have ostentatious towers and bells ringing and whatever. They had to be very plain structures.
Okay, so that's your day on Sunday, and you were just telling me something interesting as well. One previous priest is actually buried in here.
That's right.
His plaque is there in the wall, Father Terence.
Well, an interesting thing before I talk about Father Terence O'Reilly, the first parish priest here was actually the Bishop of Kilmore as well. Bishop Farrell O'Reilly, so he was the man who actually built the 3 chapels in the area. He was resident here, so he was the bishop, and Drumgoon was his mensal parish, or the parish where he lived. And the second bishop after him was James Brown, a Wexford man. So he came to Cavan as well, and he lived in Cootehill as well for a period. So after the 2 bishops' time then, when Bishop Brown moved to Cavan, the bishops have lived there ever since. The next parish priest was Terence O'Reilly. And there's a plaque, as you can see, on the wall here to Father O'Reilly. He was stationed here for quite a long time, and he lived through some harrowing times. As the Great Famine took place while he was parish priest, and he wrote letters looking for help to the government for the starving people. So apparently when he died, he was in such high esteem that the people erected a plaque to him, and his body was interred within the chapel. So yeah, he has a special place in the memory of the people, the older people.
So that's it. Next Sunday, 12:30 here in St Mary's Chapel, or the Middle Chapel. Is everybody welcome to come along?
Everybody's welcome, yes.
And
whoever can come.
You can see it online, and you can go back and see it online
online
as well. Celebrating 200 years of worship in the parish of Drumgoon.
Thank you very much,
So
Áine.
I'd like to say thank you, Patrick, for inviting us along, and I hope you have a wonderful day. As I said, the church inside looks splendid, outside looks splendid, and of course there is the short history, and that book will be launched on the day as well.
That's correct, and I'd just like to say a special thank you to our committee who worked so hard. I won't name names because you'd leave people out, but they all know who they are. We're very proud of our committee, and they have done splendid work.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Patrick, and I hope you have a fitting, wonderful day on Sunday.
Thanks a lot.
And now I'm going to speak to a man who has lived all of his life in this parish, and he's all of 82 years of age. And the man himself is Breen MacDonald. Good afternoon, Breen.
How are you?
Well, you have lived in this parish for 82 years. You've seen some changes down along the line, have you?
A lot of changes over there.
What is your first memory of this church?
My first memories would be being brought by my parents and my two older sisters here on a Christmas morning, and seeing it was such a joy to see the place lit up with candles. There was no electric light then, as you would know, and all the windows, two in each window, showed up the stainless windows from the lovely glass from outside first, and then to come in here was real magical. It was also new to me.
Very special for you.
Very special to me.
And you took part in the services in the church, and you were saying about 70 years ago you were an altar boy and you remember it well.
Yes, oh yeah. Yeah, being an altar boy then was difficult in the sense that we had to learn Latin. The Mass was in Latin then. We had to answer the priest in Latin. The congregation they didn't answer at all in those days. So we had to...
So this was a pretty important job.
It wasn't easy to getting all the words right, but...
Were you nervous? Were you nervous then as a young lad?
Oh, very nervous. Very
afraid of the priest?
Afraid of everybody. Yes, afraid of the priest.
Yeah.
But it wasn't so bad. It was happy memories too.
Okay, so and going on then through time, as you say, you mentioned there the Latin Mass. You have seen huge changes in the church in those 70 years, haven't you?
Yes.
The change from the Latin to the circular Mass now. Go on.
That was the biggest, it's one of the biggest changes, I suppose. Yeah, where the priest was facing the people in the church, and then the congregation they were asked to answer.
And it was in English then. It was understandable.
English, yeah. So
actually, they changed the church. They changed the altar, and after post-Vatican II, they changed the structure of the
altar rails were removed, and the altar. Part of the altar is still here now with the present altar here, but the big altar was just pitied in the sense that it was removed at the time. But anyhow, that was a very big change too. Yeah.
Other changes as well. You saw where I remember when ladies tell me they used to have to cover their head in church.
Oh yes, yeah. And the ladies on one side, the men
on the other side.
The men on the right hand side. I remember when we came first with my parents, I'd sit with my father here on the right hand side, and my mother, the girls would go on the left.
My goodness. Nowadays, women are taking more of a part in the church. They are Eucharistic ministers now. They can be the girls can be altar girls.
Yes, of course, yeah. There, in my young days, there was no girls at all. It was
no women doing
that's
anything.
why we were called altar boys, or altar servers now, just girls and boys. But we're blessed here in this church. We have so many young people now getting involved, doing readings and Eucharistic ministers.
And the church music as well.
And the church music, which is enhanced.
You're looking forward to your wonderful day on Sunday. You have seen a lot of young people now doing many great things for the Centenary Mass, and you think that maybe the future is safe?
Oh yeah, we'd be very hopeful for the future. In this parish anyhow, yeah.
So young people are going to look after the church for the next 200 years?
I hope so.
Okay.
I hope so. Yeah.
So,
I'd like to compliment the great committee here too for the Bicentenary. They've been working 2 years now near enough, and they're a fantastic group. They put all full the shoulder to the wheel all the way.
Yeah. So you're looking forward to Sunday, to the special Mass?
Oh, very much, yeah.
And Bishop Martin's going to be here.
That'll be special.
Okay, thank you very much for telling us some of your things that you saw happening in the church over the years, and the changes. And the changes are for the better.
Yeah. Oh yeah, indeed.
Okay, so thank you very much for talking to us on Cavan TV, and I hope you have a wonderful day on Sunday.
Thank you very much.
Green MacDonald.
Thank you.
With me now is Karen Callahan, and Karen is Secretary of the Middle Chapel Bicentenary Committee. Now, if you want anything done, you ask a busy lady, and indeed that's what Karen is. Karen, all systems go for Sunday.
Yes, indeed.
And it's a great sort of penultimate end to 2 years of hard work.
Yes, we've been very lucky. We've had a very hard-working committee here in St Mary's Church, Middle Chapel, and everyone was very invested, and everyone brought something different to the committee. So we're really looking forward to the event. As I said, over 2 years in the making, and we're hoping everyone that comes on the day will enjoy the event. And we've managed to, I suppose, exceed our goals with our churchyard survey, and then with our stone monument as well, which is lovely to have dedicated to everyone in the graveyard and that.
Listening, having spoken to previous people I interviewed, there's a great feeling of community effort and community involvement in all of this.
Yes.
From the young to the old.
Young to the old, over the past year we've had, various events, especially at Christmas time, we had the children's choir who came along for Christmas, and at Easter Bunny even arrived on Easter Sunday, and on St Patrick's Day we had the local Kyotis group. So it was just bringing all those different groups and that to the church, and just highlighting this beautiful church that we have, and celebrating what is 200 years. 200
years, and indeed I see there's a wonderful short history of the 200 years by Patrick Cassidy, and that book launch will be on the day as well.
Yes.
And of course you're having a little, after the Mass, the special Mass, you're having a community get-together?
Yes, we are indeed. So we, after our celebration here, we move onwards to continue the celebrations in our Drumgoon Earnogue and Boyle Park, where again we're all a big part of as well. So we are, and the local community as well. So we're looking forward there to inviting everyone back for light refreshments. We'll have some music, and it's an opportunity for people that perhaps haven't seen each other in quite some time to sit together, to mingle, to chat, to catch up on old times and that. So we're really looking forward to that. So we are.
That's wonderful. Well, I'm sure you were busy, and all this is done now. And as you say, a great chance, other than a funeral or a wedding, for everybody to get together and have a chat. And as Breen I was speaking to earlier said, that young people are very much involved in this, and at the hands of the church is safe
Yes,
with the
yes,
young people and
yes.
safe in the hands.
Yes.
Well, looking around, my first initial approach to the chapel was, wow, this place looks amazing. It looks great inside the church. It's very, as somebody said, intimate and small, and
Yes.
not big and echoey or cold. It's warm church.
It's a very warm
and
church,
there's a
yes.
lovely feeling here.
Yes.
So well done.
Thank you.
To you and your committee, and I hope you have a wonderful day on Sunday, and we'll all see it online. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.